Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast episode number 201 and the last episode of 2022. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and it's time to delve into the Alphabet City series. Been wanting to do this podcast for so long. That is the next series that will be published next year. So the year 2023 will bring my longest book series I've written to date. And Alphabet City has been years in the works. It's just I had to focus on some other projects before I can delve into this one. And this book series came to me in 2020, and I decided to plan it more in depth the moment I thought of the series. And I already knew it was going to be a series. I just didn't know how long it was going to be. And when I started to think of life in the hood or in the bad neighborhood or in the projects, as people like to say, I put myself there. And I've seen my share of bad neighborhoods being from New York City. And there's so much to talk about. The good, bad, indifferent, and ugly parts of living and growing up in a bad neighborhood. And from the get-go, you'll meet LJ, Larry Jamal, in part 1 of the series, and you'll learn of his story and how he was one of the lucky ones who got out. And his life story will bring shock value early on in the series, and if you don't know by now, I always pack a hard punch like Mike Tyson when I start a book series. And when you learn about Alphabet City, you'll learn of the aura, the brain fogs people live in, drug dealing, violence, death, fast food restaurants, kids not being able to be kids, drug addicts, the first of the month. For those who know, you guys know. And a myriad of other things. And this was surely a challenging series to write, and bringing out characters that you'll never really see or read about. And it's a glimpse into how hard life is for a large percentage of people in the United States from day to day. It's getting a full understanding of the struggles so many young Black and Latino men and women experience on a daily basis. And while there's so much to be shared and written about this series, there's also trying to find solutions to the bad aspects of Alphabet City. The crime, gang life, violence, the bad fast food restaurants, the loss of community, policing, loitering, drugs, and anything else that you can think of. Definitely enjoyed writing this series. It had its share of challenges and things I had to get through. It was a journey within itself, and it took a few months to write the whole 12-book series. I wrote it from, I would say, May through about September. It's when I'm most productive. And when I got going with writing this series, I immersed myself into it, where I was able to complete books in pretty much a short amount of time. And there was a place where I, wrote pretty much the whole series. It was in the lounge of where I used to live, in my former apartment complex in Phoenix. I will be living somewhere else soon, but not delving into my life too much. But I will say it took plenty of mental focus to write this book series, and I had a great place, like I said, to get my writing done. And I without a doubt listen to, my music, obviously, and, my lo-fi music to really give you the whole breakdown of what I listen to. And I got down to business and stayed focused on the journey of writing this series. And editing was surely a pain in my butt, but there's nothing more fulfilling than going through the process on your own. And there's a lot to read, and I wanted to make sure I covered everything I needed to in this series. And it's not one of those book series where you're gonna get every single aspect, but I am covering a lot. And it's all worth it in the end. Always. And each book in the series will be published on the 26th of each month, the whole year. And 26 represents how many blocks Alphabet City is, from letters A to Z, which is 26 letters, which is why I'm publishing each book on the 26th of each month. And I really hope you guys all enjoy this series, as it was a joyous ride to complete the longest series I've ever written, and there's a good chance I'll probably never write a 12-book series ever again in my writing career. I'll never say never, but yeah, it's a lot to do when you're doing 12 books, 12 different characters. Well, actually 13. You'll see that down the road. And there are so many things covered in this series. So I will say that if you don't read it in one book, it will most likely be covered in another book at some point. I can't cover every single aspect in one book because then it kind of defeats the purpose of writing a book series. So you'll meet a lot of characters. One is a police officer, one is a teacher, one is a funeral director. Two of them are kids. One of them is a mother raising those two kids. Each of them got their books separate. And you'll meet one who was, dealing with some more intense stuff, that I don't really want to go into, because I try to keep this podcast as clean as possible. But I will say, something that's very prevalent in today's world. You will run into drug addiction on this. You will meet the matriarch of Alphabet City, Miss Evelyn Bates. She's she's a character within herself. You'll meet a drug dealer in the series, gang member. So a cast of characters that you'll hear their stories, and you'll hear it from a perspective that you're not going to see on TV, especially, the funeral director / mortician who has her own funeral home in Alphabet City, and it puts your heart on strings. Another character who changes careers and goes into a world of owning a business in Alphabet City and learns of the struggles and really sees it from a whole nother perspective. So a lot of things that are going to be touched on, in this series. There will be a lot of heartfelt moments, and there will be a lot of moments of like, wow, or damn. And that's the point. Alphabet City is just, a lot of ghettos in Memphis and Baltimore and Atlanta and a lot of parts of New York City that I have walked through and experienced either by myself or, with my father when I was much younger. I didn't want to go into certain things. I didn't want to delve into it. I didn't want to write the cliche of kids wanting to be a basketball player or a football player or an actor or a music artist. Like, I did not want to write the cliche parts of it. But I do talk about the education system. I do talk about the medical industry and how it affects Black people and Latino people and medical insurance and certain aspects. I throw it out there, as in I throw the pitch, and it's up to you guys to read it and take the swing, and let's thread the needle and move into discussing a lot more of these issues. A lot of these books will be on average from about 60 to about 75 pages, give or take. Some of them will be a little bit longer. Part 1 is over 80 pages, and I think there's only one book that I think is like 100 pages, and that's because I'm incorporating 2 characters in that book. And you'll understand why when that happens. But what I want to say is that this is an important book series that I really want to stress. Like, this is going to be a book series that I feel like will really elevate me and challenge me in ways that I never thought I would. This year, was a year where I wrote about, women's issues, men's issues, things like that. Did 2 6-book series, things of that nature. this Alphabet City are things that I've seen, things I've heard from people, things that, I've seen on TV shows, things like that. But a lot of it you know, I've heard from people and things of that nature. So, nothing new within all of it, but it's more of you're going to hear it from a perspective, and certain people make changes for the better. Certain people don't learn until it's too late. And for me, this series is more about like hope and change, and how are we getting a lot of these neighborhoods changed, and how are we, giving young kids a chance to grow up and get the same opportunities as other kids in other parts of cities and states around the country, right? Because I only can speak of, what goes on here in the United States. I can't speak of, other countries until I travel to those countries and, get to talk to those people and experience that. So I try to keep things in perspective as best as I can. I don't want to really sit here and tell you every single thing, because then it would be totally giving it away. But there will always be updates on what's going on my website, obviously, which is aquarianmindrights.com. If you are expecting audiobooks for that book series, I don't think that's going to happen next year. I've got a couple of other book series that I want to focus on first before I even think of getting to that book series. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with next year and how things go. So anyway, this year has been nothing short of fulfilling. It's been fun. It's been exciting. I want to really thank you guys all from the bottom of my heart for listening to my podcast consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month. A lot of content coming next year. Obviously, you guys will get the insight into how I wrote each book with Alphabet City as I publish each book. The first book of the series will be January 26, 2023. This is obviously the last podcast for this year. Close to, the holidays and all that stuff here in the United States. That wasn't the goal, but got sick. A couple of other good things happening in my life. Had to take care of a lot of things and, all that. But a lot is coming next year. A lot of great stuff for Mondays with Mellow. A lot of great stuff with Wednesday Motivation Inspiration. A lot of stuff for Friday Book Insight. A lot of times I'm probably going to wing it on a lot of my podcasts. It's just going to be what's on my mind, and I'm just going to come on and, talk about whatever's in my mind at the moment. But I don't want to become the cliche podcaster who talks about the same things that everyone else does. Relationships, love, the divide of men and women, all that other stuff. Neither here nor there. So, enjoy the rest of this year. Focus on what you guys want to do for next year. And my website's open with the contact form. You guys can always reach out to me. You can follow me on my social media websites, all that good stuff. So, with that said, I'm gone. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my time, and I'll get back to recording podcasts, and I will be making my return back in early January. So, happy holidays, happy new year, all that great stuff. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.